for the ongoing Israel-Hamas war and for the entire region? Could there be more worrying ramifications in the days ahead? Let's understand this with our guest joining me on Global Lens tonight. Lev Aaron, Israeli columnist and journalist, Major General P.K. Sehgal, defense and geopolitical expert, Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar, former Indian diplomat, and completing the panel tonight is Dr. Ido Zelkovitz, head of the Middle East Studies at the YVC, joining us live from Haifa in Israel. Gentlemen, a warm welcome to all of you. Thanks for joining me on Global Lens. Eid Mubarak to you and all our viewers, but I certainly wish that I could say this under better circumstances. Let me start with Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar. Ambassador Sajanhar, you know, after let's say ticking off Netanyahu quite publicly on a multiple occasions in the recent past, telling him to course correct, telling him to mend his ways, President Biden has now made it abundantly clear that US support for Israel is ironclad, and he said this particularly in the context of the Iranian threat that currently exists. We all know that 10 days ago there was an airstrike on the Iranian embassy in the Syrian capital of Damascus that left 7 Iranian officers dead. 2 of them were Iranian generals. And the supreme leader of Iran, no less, has vowed revenge, saying, quote unquote, the evil regime must and will be punished, a reference, of course, to Israel. Now, President Biden says that Iran is threatening to launch a significant attack. Those are the words that President Biden has used, a significant attack, and he says we're going to do all we can to protect Israel's security. Now, the question is, what kind and nature of attack do you believe this could possibly be? Because it is very clear that the United States, no less, is taking this threat extremely seriously.
Yeah, thank you very much, Neha. You know, there are very many possibilities. I think this is a million-dollar question that you have asked as to what sort of an attack it could be by Iran on Israel. Is it going to be from the Iranian territory through missile or through other kinetic means on the Israeli territory? Is it going to be an attack of that nature? Is it going to be an attack by one of its proxies? They have been going on, whether it's Hamas, it's Hezbollah, it is Houthis. Hezbollah is much more powerful as compared to Hamas. They have huge stocks of missiles, and they are, you know, even as far as the range is concerned, not only the northern parts of Israel, but they can also reach the southern parts of Israel. So they have, in terms of their capability of wreaking havoc and damage and destruction on Israel, that is huge. Of course, Houthis have been very active, but they could also step up their game. The other possibility, of course, could be that, you know, some of the Iranian embassies or Iranian missions or other interests in different parts of the world, they could also be under attack. So I think as far as Israel is concerned, what is reported is that they are taking precautionary measures to protect themselves, whether there are their embassies in different parts of the world. The security is being ramped up, the security is being enhanced, and even as far as Israel itself is concerned. And Israel has also warned in no uncertain terms that if the attack were to come from Iran, then Israel is also going to hit back on Iranian territory. So I think that is some consideration that Iran will definitely take on board, that, you know, if it launches an attack from its own territory, then it should be prepared to face the attack from Israel. And at the moment, I don't think Iran is in a position to take on the full might of Israel and also the United States, which has, President Biden, as you said very clearly and correctly, that he has said that the guarantee is ironclad and unwavering commitment to the security of Israel. So I think to respond to your question, there are very many possibilities. In my view, it would be the attack would come because, I don't think an attack of this nature, although Israel has not accepted responsibility, that an attack of this nature can go unresponded. But and Iran has been wanting that this conflagration between Hamas and Israel, that it should expand, and other Arab countries should also get involved in it, so that it can really emerge as the leader of this whole process that has been going on, particularly from the 7th of August. So it would like to do that, but I don't think it would like to get involved directly and fire missiles onto Israeli territory from its own territory. The last word on this I'd like to say, as far as America is concerned, of course, it's they have a commitment, they have a treaty. Israel is a treaty ally. So, giving it security, providing it full security is its commitment. It would be a part of its credibility also, as far as the US is concerned. And also, I think finally, the United States would not like this war to become, to expand, become more regional than what it already is, because it would not like its own attention to be diverted from the Indo-Pacific and what it has, the Ukraine conflict on its hands. So as far as America is concerned, what President Biden has said, it is also in the nature of a deterrent, a warning to Iran, that it should not expect that it would be only between Iran and Israel, but the United States would also feel compelled to come into the play if an attack on Israel were to take place.
I think that's a very important point. President Biden's statement is a message and a warning to Iran that if Iran were to launch an attack on Israel, Israel would find the United States firmly in its corner, and the US may feel compelled to come into play. Therefore, this is a threat that Iran cannot afford to take lightly. However, Lev, let me come to you. Fact of the matter is that Iran has said that an attack on our consulate was like an attack on Iran itself. And of course, as I mentioned, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, has said, in his words, the evil regime must and will be punished. President Biden, no less, has said that Iran could launch a significant attack. Now, apart from cancelling the leave of a lot of soldiers with the combat unit and calling up reservists, what are the ways in which Israel is bracing itself for a possible Iranian retaliation? And is there any sense at the moment of what form that retaliation could come in and how soon? You know, of course, the ambassador made an important point that thus far, Iran has not directly entered the fray. It's only used its multiple proxies to target Israel and Israeli interests, whether it is Hezbollah or Hamas or the Houthis. But could that change? Could this be a situation where Iran actually does consider directly engaging in a conflict with Israel and inevitably with the United States? You think it would want to go that far?
Okay, so you have asked a few questions. I will try to answer at least a few of them. I think the Iranians felt that Israeli-US relationship are on a free fall. And it is a good time to maybe to attack Israel, or at least to threat of attacking. And I think that's why it was important for Biden to say, to tell everybody that the foundations are very strong. This is one. The second thing is, let's remember that from, let's say, from Mumbai to Iran, it is much closer in a way than from Israel to Iran. So we don't have a border with Iran. And even with Iraq, we don't have a border, okay? So it is a long way. So we are talking about two aspects. One is rockets, and the second one is terror attacks against our, let's say, embassies, like Argentina, I think like 30 years back. So these are more or less the two options. All of them are taken seriously, but if you remember at the beginning of the war, both the US and also the UK, they sent their power to Israel to show that if a war starts, they are part of the war with Israel. And in a way, the appetite of Hezbollah, and let alone Iran, to start a second and a third front against Israel was much less thanks to the UK and the US. So I think Biden is using the same policy now, showing that with all his disrespect to Netanyahu, and I think really he's very upset about Netanyahu, the foundations of Israel-US relationship are still as solid as they were 1 week ago.
All right. So the message from President Biden certainly is an important one. But, I want to now put this question to our other two panelists. What are the various options that Iran could look at? I will go across to Major General P.K. Sehgal and Dr. Ido Zelkovitz in just a moment. But, I just want to read out what some analysts have said over the last few days. Now, what could the nature of this reprisal attack from Iran against Israel be? There are those who believe that Iran actually does not have the military capability for a significant confrontation, knowing that is going to involve not just Israel but also the United States. Therefore, a possible alternative, analysts say, is an attack via an Iranian proxy like Hezbollah, which has already been trading fire with Israel for a long time, since the 7th of October. And some have said Hezbollah is capable, and hundreds of thousands of rockets and missiles across the border can reach all the way into southern Israel. Some analysts also believe Hezbollah actually is more capable than Hamas and would have the capability to do significant damage to Israel. And then there are those who say that, Iranian officials have already warned that Israel's embassies are no longer safe, suggesting a consulate building could be a possible target. And experts have also suggested that Iran could target Israel with a cyber attack. Those are the different options that some analysts seem to have laid out. Major General P.K. Sehgal, let me begin with you. What would your guess be, sir? How far do you think Iran would be willing to go, knowing fully well that this could actually lead to a very big regional conflagration, one even involving the United States of America? So even as Iran vows revenge against Israel, which of these options do you think it is most likely to exercise? Do you really see it engaging in a direct conflict with Israel?
I am very strongly of the firm belief that Iran would not do any direct attack on Israel, for obvious reasons, because it does not want to get involved in a reprisal by both America as well as Israel, which could be extremely damaging for Iran and its own population. It was most likely going to use Hezbollah, whose military potential only up to an extent of 1% has been utilized thus far. From 8th of October, there have been small skirmishes on a daily basis. Hezbollah has got more than 100,000 rockets and missiles, etc., which are precision guided, which are accurate, and which can target their air bases and all the other military facilities of Israel. They will ensure that they do not attack any civilian targets in Israel, but they will attack their military targets and their air bases. Iran could also attack Israeli embassies world over, or any chosen embassy. It could also attack American assets in the Middle East. It could also do one thing which they have said they will not do it, but they could also block the Strait of Hormuz. And if they do so, it will be a major catastrophe, not only for the region, but for the entire world. As 35 to 40% of the oil and gas that comes from Middle East passes through Straits of Hormuz. And Iran is in a position to block it. With Houthis having blocked the Red Sea route and Iranians blocking this, it would be an absolute total catastrophe for the globe. I personally feel Iran is in no position whatsoever to challenge the might of America or the Israelis. Americans have already told them that they've deployed huge forces. They are only meant to ensure that the conflict does not enlarge. Iran has got itself in a bind. Its credibility is at stake. It has to do something. If it does not do something, the credibility of Ali Khamenei and the Iranian leadership would be demolished for all times to come. Hence, I very, very strongly feel that it is going to launch a major attack on Israel, not from its own territory, but through the Hezbollah, which earlier panelists have also said they can target any and every asset of Israel. And I reiterate that they will not attack civilian targets like the Israelis have been doing in Gaza. They will only attack the military targets, which are the ones which are causing huge damage both to Gaza as well as would be doing elsewhere. And these assets are, which they've already indicated that they'll be attacking the air bases, they'll be attacking their communication centers, they'll be attacking their communication towers, and they'll be attacking their missile and rocket launcher bases, etc. Plus, they will also attack their military installations.
All right, very interesting. Major General Sehgal is categorical. He does not believe that Iran will want to engage in a direct conflict with Israel. It does not have the capability to do that, knowing that it's going to draw the United States into that conflict. But it has vowed revenge. Therefore, there will be a reprisal attack, and that could very well come through Hezbollah, one of its most trusted proxies, shall we say. Dr. Zelkovitz, let me put this question to you. There may not be a direct conflict between Iran and Israel, because Iran has thus far steered clear of it, but it has used many of its proxies to target Israel since the 7th of October in particular. Major General Sehgal says that Iran would not want to escalate it to a point where it risks facing an attack from the United States of America, especially given what President Biden has said. Therefore, what exactly is Israel thinking at this point in time as it braces itself for an Iranian retaliation, which is inevitable because the supreme leader, no less, has said so on television? What exactly is Israel preparing itself for at this moment? Do the Israelis feel that Hezbollah, which has already been trading fire with Israel for a long time now, could step up its attacks? And there are many who believe that Hezbollah is more than capable of inflicting a lot of damage on Israel, not to mention possible attacks on embassies, consulates, military installations, what have you.
Hello, Nia, and good evening for the audience. I definitely agree with the brilliant analysis of the Major General. I think that the Iranian regime doesn't want to get into a direct clash with Israel. From the Iranian perspective, we must understand that the most important issue for them is to get progress with their nuclear project. And the Iranian regime knows that if they will direct hit Israel, Israel will have now the opportunity to strike on all of their nuclear project industry in Iran together with the United States, and this is something that they are taking in mind and they want to prohibit it. For the second part of your question, well, I think that the clash between Israel and Hezbollah is on the way. I think there is also, from purely military and strategically angle, need and will in Israel to go into direct clash with Hezbollah in order to change again the reality in the northern part of Israel, and in the end of this war to achieve peace and quiet for the citizens of Israel that lives in the northern peripheral area. The question is just when and how. If the Iranian will use Hezbollah or other of the proxies in the northern area in order to hit back Israel, I think that will be the casus belli that Israel look for to start I will say, aggressive, very, very aggressive ground maneuver that will be compounded with heavy fire from the air and from the sea against Hezbollah infrastructures in southern Lebanon. And in this case, I think Hezbollah can bring a disaster on Lebanon if there's going to be second front up in the north. Israel will use 3 or 4 times strong air force, strong fire force that they launch on the Gaza Strip. That can create a huge damage to state infrastructure in Lebanon. The Lebanese population knows that, the Lebanese government understand it, and therefore there is a lot of pressure on Hezbollah not to take Lebanon into adventure that no one wants and everyone knows how it's going to end.